Good afternoon. I would like to call to order this Brunswick City Commission regularly scheduled meeting for Wednesday, October 4th, 2023. If we can please stand for our invocation pledge of allegiance. We all could bow. God, thank you for the time I have to come together to do the business of your people. We ask you to watch over and continue to bless all of the decisions made here. Let them work out for all of those. In your son Jesus' name we do pray. Amen. Allegiance to the flag, of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty. All right. We now on to the adoption of the October 4th, 2023 regularly scheduled meeting. Linda, do we have any additions or subtractions?
Motion to approve as.
I'm sorry, I have one request. I would ask if I could remind until item until after executive session.
Perfect. So that would be a deference until after executive session?
Yes.
Okay. Then said, any additional changes? Hearing none, open it for a motion.
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda with the exception of deferring item number 7, consider approval of amendment to employment contract between the City of Brunswick and City Manager Regina McGee.
Hearing a first and second.
Second.
All those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those the same. Hearing the motion passes. The agenda is adopted. We'll now move to recognition proclamation proclaiming the month of October as Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And I am perfect. Good evening. before we get into information, I want you to give people your name again, your organization, and how they be able to reach out to you if they're looking back at this and they want to reach out to your organization to talk about these things in our community. And we'll make sure that we have your info available at the front of City Hall. So if you have any pamphlets that you want us to, we'll make sure to put those out there. It is perfect timing as we move in domestic violence awareness month. And thank you more than anything for your work that you've done outside of Love Smart, but just love the community, sharing your story and sharing your testimony and what you've stepped through and learned from, but also helped all of us grow. So I think that's big awareness enough for this month. And I just want to say thank you for your service. We'll now move on to items for approval. Consider approval of September 2023 to 2023 regular scheduled meeting minutes. We'll leave it open for a motion. And we will open that portion.
I make a motion that we approve the regularly scheduled meeting minutes for September 20th, 2023 as
Hearing the first, do I hear a second?
Second.
Hearing the first and the second, those in favor show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing the motion passes. We will now move on to consider approval of August 31st, 2023 financial reports. Directives.
I've never been this early before. I have a little addendum to the financials. I just report on ARPA after I had done this and had to add some things we had budgeted, but I'll talk about those second. You have before you the August 31st financials. We're 2 months of the fiscal year. For the year to date, we had a deficit of 331,000. I'm sorry, monthly 301,000. Year to 644,000. But for the month of August, that's not a usual occurrence. We will start collecting property taxes very soon, and those numbers will turn around. I had cash on hand as of 8/31 of $8.9 million. You'll see there that $2 of that at Prime South. I don't usually carry that big of a balance at Prime South end of the month, but sometimes the way the end of the month falls, we get the sales tax distribution the last couple of days of the month, and sometimes I don't have time to invest those into Georgia Fund 1 before the month closes. So most of that money is now over in Georgia Fund 1. And Georgia Fund 1 was earning 5.36% interest. For the loss distribution, you will see for the month of August, we received $1 million compared to last year at the time of $837,000. You'll see my little asterisk there. August of 23, we got a one-time adjustment from the Department of Revenue for $120,000 approximately. They had sent me an email a couple of weeks before the distribution received saying that they had changed programs at some from the previous year and had found that it had not been computing the correct amount. And so this was a one-time adjustment. It covered the period from December of 22 through August of 23. So that's a big adjust there. So we were up for the month 18.77%, and year to date local option sales tax were up 11.7%. Just for information purposes, for SPOS 22 as of August 1st, had $2,049,000. None of the funds have been spent yet. We will be reporting on those in further details that those funds are to be spent on the new SPOS 22 project. On the second page, you have SPOS 6, and I'm not really going to go over that in detail because we have something on the agenda next about SPOS and the things that we want to do to close some things out. So I will let the city manager go over that. I won't go over it in detail right now. The cash on hand, though, at August 31st, $1.7 million. SPOS 6. Page, Norwich Street Commons. No money has been spent out of that fund. It did earn interest year to date, $3,000. We have a cash balance as of August 1st of $353,000 approximately. Roosevelt Herald Multipurpose Center. We had total revenues or inflow of $93,000, expenditures of approximately $49,000. Give us a net of $44,000. However, we have transferred $30,000 from the general fund to the Roosevelt Harris Multipurpose Center. However, like we're doing better this year so far. And it's a budget for the transfer from general fund for the year of $270,000, which would be approximately $23,000 a month. But so far, we've only $15,000 been there. Got a cash balance of $12,000 at the end of the month. The next part for the ARPA fund is what I hand to you on this paper. Basically, everything on it is the same until you, the bottom part as the allocations. And there were, before we showed unallocated of about $1.5 million, and we have subsequently allocated a lot of those funds. So we now have unallocated funds of approximately $560. And out of that money, $331,000, that is the income we've earned on those ARPA funds since we first started receiving money. We've had a total of $9,540,000, including interest that come into that fund. And we have paid $3.1 million, leaving us a cash balance of $6,197,000. And you can see, as I said, from the bottom, those things are set up to go. And I think some of the differences, some of the change, I know we added transit support system and facility improvements. Some of the other changed some amounts on, but that was next on ARPA, and I'll get those changes out. Next page, sanitation. We have year to date revenues $193,000. Exceeds $108,000, leaving us operating income of $135,000. At the hand of $293,000 as of August 31st. We'll soon start seeing money rolling in. We collect those on the property taxes. $197,000 still in fund for restricted landfill. Trash pickup funds approximately $126,000 a month. See there for the month of August, and year to date about double that. And then we have illegal refuse pickup and street sweepers total $204,000. I'm sure we'll see some of those numbers go up with illegal refuse as we see expenses. Idalia did have a lot of debris. Stormwater utility fund inflows for the month $11,086. Outflows $48,000 for a net deficit of $137,000. Which once again is we are coming to the end of the year or we're coming to the point where we'll start collecting fees again on property taxes. Those numbers will turn around. We also are still waiting for money to come in from grants that are out there where we've already ended the fund. And so they're showing up in expenses, but we've not yet received funding for those past years. Cash balance of $30,000. Right, just the Resident Lawrence Center, the total expenditure of $16,000, and, majority of that obviously is salaries. Mr. Casey, you had asked me last month, the temporary labor that we had, looked at that earlier, for the year, and I was looking January on, we've spent about $25,000 on that temporary casual labor, for the, summer program. And you'll notice here, I have made a note that the electric shows is zero here and has year to date. We have talked to Georgia Power, and Georgia Power tells us that we have a $1,000 credit once in that account, and we don't know where that came from because we've not paid rent here that time. So we are waiting on them to figure out, they've credited something else to us there, but they're not spending us any bill. So we're still looking at that still going on. So I just want you to be aware that's why we haven't put anything, that there's nothing showing evidence. And we do have elections. That's the financial report. Questions?
Any questions or comments?
You said Nina's gonna provide further explanation on what part of.
On the law 6, we have an item on the agenda. The next item on the agenda is about law 6. So I just thought I wouldn't go over that in party because it is much like it is every month. I mean, basically a lot of activity. We're not really taking in a lot of money, and we are gradually spending, trying to complete projects that are there that have not completed, but majority of them pretty much have them.
Okay, I'm just looking at the last part, the allocations preliminary section. Go back.
That's the individual ARPA out that you gave us. And it is the last section.
That's the ARPA funds. And the only thing she changed was, you remember in the budget, we approved for $4.1 million ARPA funds to be through the general fund. And that's just showing that 4.5 million allocation. That's the
Yeah.
only change. It was just so that this report reflect what was in the budget.
Okay,
Yeah, and
okay.
if you want to, you can, on the bottom part of the page that I included, that was what we had before, that was in the financials that I sent you. You get the projects, like, we added, transit support.
Yeah, those are just the things that were in the budget that we
Right,
approved.
but I
It's making sure that the report, because at the end of last fiscal year, we should have just the allocations because once the budget was approved, so that the R report would reflect what the budget.
What the budget
reflects.
reflects.
Yeah, so that basically was just to make sure that they were consistent.
Okay, so you cross-reference one with the other, and make sure. Okay,
I just didn't go in and fix my.
okay.
I'll make a motion to approve financial August the 31st.
I'll second, but I have a question as well. But I do second. Ms. Mills, the sanitation and the expenditures, since we're 2 months into new fiscal year, but we had the storm or the hurricane event.
Yeah.
And I know we weren't relying on the FEMA funds for the pickups. It's all handled either by the city or by Republics. Republics doesn't really pick that.
Well,
up.
we had them to pick up some of the debris just so that we can get it off of the street.
Right.
We have, all of the departments right now reconciling and calculating what their impact was. Hopefully be able to manage in the budget. I know right now Public Works was about $96,000, but we'll bring a report to the commission, to the finance committee, hopefully at the end of this month to say how much was impacted by that. And the threshold not where we would file for reimbursement.
Right. So, but it's hasn't reflected that in the,
No,
This goes to law.
okay,
right.
thank you.
Is everything being picked up going to law school? Or
So again,
is everything being picked up from the current going to law? Or do you have other files?
I'm not sure. I had to check with Pro to
There's
see
a
where
line
those
out on
been
Walk
taken.
Road. I didn't know if you had other.
I don't, think there's any other pals around the city, but, I would have to confer with him specifically.
Thank you.
We have a first and a second on the. With that first and a second, all those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We will now move on to consider approval of special purpose local option sales tax reclassification and reconciliation of funds to close out completed accounts.
And I hope to make it easy. Basically, we're doing this so we can close out the report because we are going to start reporting on the SPLOST. So we want to make sure all of the accounts that could be closed in the old SPLOST were reconciled and closed. This is not any different than what's reported every month on the report that Kathy gives. All it does is just all the ones that have overages, which we were reconciling with the funds that were in the SPLOST. We'll close all of those out and just have, and that's 12 different projects. Then we'll have 6 projects that are left open. And those have money in those accounts for us to finish spending out of SPLOST 2016.
We will ultimately balance out all of them.
Yes, all of that and that's what this does. It balances all of those. It will pull those that are closed off of that report and only on the ones that have money and are ongoing.
Okay.
And then hopefully this month, we'll also present the new accounts and going forward, have a time schedule of when the money's coming in and what we'll allocate it to, and have that schedule set, presented to commission.
And I suppose too, we'll know at some point when we reach tier 1, we're moving towards tier 2 or tier 3, correct?
Well, it's
As we
the way
move
the
forward.
projects were set up, all of just about everything has tier 1 money in it. So we'll have that schedule that the projects will have money going into them. That tier 1 part of it will be funded.
Additional questions? I don't I don't have a question. I understand that these are the closing out of an old SPLOST. However, what I think is important is that we have a new SPLOST coming online that we were all in favor of. And when I specifically look at 2 projects on the bid overrun list of Mary Ross Park at $324,130 and park rehabilitation of Palmetto Orange at $115,000. What is important to me is not that we won't have bridges and projects. I understand that scales change. But what is important to me that this commission is kept abreast when those overages hit a certain percentage point. I do want us to maybe confer a little bit as a commission in the coming weeks and months of coming up with what is a certain number. But I think for us, we want to have a deeper understanding of overages when they come and be able to directly and in a transparent way explain to our citizens what those overages means and what those runs mean. And in the same way, leave us the ability to be able to say if there's a project out there that's look like we need to focus on another project on the list, we need to make those changes the same as we did kind of with the walkway. It allows us the timing and understanding looking at budget to understand those overages to make those changes. So I'm thankful that we're closing these out. And thankful to get this information in front of us. Just want to make sure we're moving forward. We build that consensus as a commission. Once those overs hit, start to evaluate the project.
That will be a real good one for the finance committee to task. Good point. Do the finance.
And that is something that we discuss. The percentages, going forward for the runs and making sure that we had, that information, before we could make a transparent, educated decision as to go forward or not going.
And most of it, I mean, the things, we had money, extra money in the accounts, and we can only use it purposes. And so it wasn't like we ran out of the money just because we, it was because we had additional money and we had to allocate it. And most times it report again to the commission, but it wasn't reflected in the accounting part of it. But thank you, but yeah, we'll report that clearly going forward.
It's perfect. Any additionals? Here and now, we'll open it for a motion.
Motion,
It's a lot of oration in this sentence. Yeah, motion to approve the
The
special
special-
purpose local option sales tax reclassification and reconciliation of funds to close out completed accounts.
I move.
that,
We got a first and a second. All those in favor show by the usual sign of aye. Aye. All those the same. Hearing none, the motion passes. We'll now move on to consider approve funding for grant consultant, City Manager McDuffie.
Yes, this is to, we engaged a grant writer last year when we were, worked to get the public safety grant and Parks and Rec grant. And we had that person work on a temporary basis. And actually she's it on a volunteer basis. We were able to get those two grants for $0.1 million and ultimately paid her approximately $2,000 for her work. We have engaged her continuously. Now, we didn't put money specifically in the budget. We will pay out of the grants when we get grants for the administrative part of it, but any residual money that we may need to pay for research, for vetting, for just delving into eligibility for different grants and projects. If we needed some money in place for that. I do have some money in my budget that I started paying her, but need about $20,000 to finish out the fiscal year. And it's scheduled on a 20-hour week schedule, but it's not a schedule. She will be showing invoiced amounts for the work needed. And again, if we can apply it to a grant, then we'll do that.
So is it still coming out of your discretionary fund?
It's, it's coming out of
Or
the
it's being
contingency.
budgeted?
I say that again.
Is it being budgeted?
It's
Operating
being,
budget?
being transferred from contingency to a line item.
Okay. And then I know there was an agreement too, as part of what we're, a service agreement. But times out of 10, the grant writer is not administrating whatever department that particular grant falls
Right.
is administrating it.
Right.
So the grant writer just gets a lump.
Right, a
Right.
small portion of, for the run and preparation, but that's a lot of work. Plus, then I think of it is just finding, when you all send me grant and say, hey, look, funding opportunity, what I do is transfer it to her, ask her to research it, ask her to vet it to see, okay, is this something that, the city of Brunswick fits? If we have strong eligibility for, if we have, timing to get it done. and that kind of thing. And that determination is made on the front before we even delve into the grant. If we get the grant, that her time will be paid from that grant for a particular, but there's also work that's done kind of collectively in general for grants that we may or may not apply for.
So keeping up with her time,
Yes.
okay, and that's what she's gonna submit as part
Right.
of it, okay. Well, I think too, having somebody on a control arrangement is fiscally great, but I think so having somebody who's gonna be actually part of us, part of city staff, and has and is going to gain further knowledge of the city, everything that's going on, that position, that contract service will, I would think, become more and more valuable to us because he knows so much more.
Well,
He knows
and
what we need and what we're looking for.
I think Mary Jo should be online right now, but I just want to say thank you to her because she has done a tremendous job. Not only, I have had some meeting. I talked to her about the fact that we are looking at our African-American prison project. We talked about, the fact that we had an interest in Listener House, maybe building out that project. She actually, and this was on her own, went to Savannah, looked at some museums there and brought back just some really good information, so she has a very high enthusiasm for just working and serving the city. So, I want to thank her for that effort.
So we do appreciate her. So this is one of the things that we did knock on in the finance committee meeting because we wanted to make sure we understood the implications of the contract and how the contract would actually work, where the monies would come from regarding this $1,000. And so with something that you just said, Regina, is that initially the monies are coming from your initially.
Mhm.
That's because they have not been departmentalized yet
That's
or specifically categorized.
That's why I had, money in my budget for consulting.
Right. So that's what we want to make sure initially. So the $20,000 is for the initial R&D. Or is that the research development part of it?
No, it will be $20,000 will be for her time. And what I said was, if we can apply to a grant, because, I can't say right now that we'll get a grant or we'll have money to, use for that. But if we can apply it to a grant, we pay it from the grant.
That's what I'm saying. The initial part of it, before it's departmental or categorized, say it's going to CDBG or it's going to whatever the department, infrastructure, recreation and park, whatever other department that it is specifically geared towards, and it's going to go out. And we've done our reach. That's the initial part. We've done our research. So you're just generalizing that actual research payment part of it. And then once it's specified, then it's going to go towards a specific department from monies are going to come out, additional monies to pay her, or just this 20,000. Okay.
She will be paid based on the work done. And the reason I kind of define the 20,000 is kind of like, okay, the expectation is for her to work maybe 20 hours a week for the rest of the year. She may work 40 hours one week or 30 hours or 10 hours, but she will document everything she does, submit an invoice, and make sure that at the end of the year won't go that 20,000. However, if it's done that we can apply back to a grant that is received, then we will try to the grant. And it's not going to be a double, but again, a lot of the work that she does may be on the front end, and she'll do 3 hours of work researching that grant, and we don't apply for the grant.
Okay, that's what I'm to make sure we have a clear foundation. If Mary Jo is doing the research for, we've not the grant yet. So the administrative cost of that grant can't come out that grant, don't have the grant.
Right.
yet. So the upfront monies are going to come from,
The money here.
okay, that's what we want to make sure everybody understands. Once and if we determine that we're proceeding forward with applying for the grant, we secure the grant, then we're going to go back and we're gonna get the administrative costs. We're going to now take the monies, that part of that grant, reapply it back to the discretionary fund, so that discretionary fund will be made whole. And the money have come out of the grant that we secured.
Right.
That's what I want to make
Yeah.
sure and understand.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
You know, at one time, we had a grant writer. We lost her. We lost her to government entity right up the street. And she was a good grantor too. I think she's done a really good job where she is down. So, you know, remember what goes around comes around.
It's like, I now, cause, I'm looking at Commissioner Booker and, he said, yes, we thank you all for her.
She's doing a good job. She was doing us a good job, let me
Yeah,
assure you.
yeah.
She started off police department and something happened. And I don't know all the intricacies, but I know that she went down the street.
But we are appreciative of Mel because she started out volunteering doing this, and she was still curing grant on the city's behalf without even being paid.
Mm-hmm.
And she did tell us that she's to remain part-time. She's not looking for a full-time position.
Right.
So that Regina hadn't pursued on a full-time basis.
She's already gotten over $3 million worth of grants. Is that documented?
Right.
Yeah. So I think we're on the right track.
Yeah.
I'll take that option.
You got it.
There it is. Do I
I'll
have a
second.
second?
I'll second.
First and second, all in favor, show by the usual sign of aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, the motion, I'll move on
Thank
to
you.
executive session for,
Litigation personnel, litigation and personnel.
oh, sorry, before we move on, thank you. I wanted to come back, I wanted to get through our work, come back to the proclamation. Whereas domestic violence impacts countless Brunswickians without regard to age, race, gender, religion, or economic status, as victims suffer at the hands of a spouse or partner, it affects their children, families, and entire communities. Whereas victims should have help to find the compassion, comfort, and healing they need, and domestic abuse should be punished to the full extent of the law. And whereas City of Brunswick joins with others across Georgia and the nation in supporting victims of domestic violence, as well as local programs, state coalitions, national organizations, and other agencies nationwide committed to increase public awareness of domestic violence and sending a clear message to abusers that domestic violence is not tolerated in Brunswick. Now, therefore, in recognition of the important work done by survivors, domestic violence programs, victim service providers, I, Cosby Johnson, as Mayor of the City of Brunswick, along with my fellow commissioners, do hereby proclaim the month of October 2023 as Domestic Violence Awareness Month, honoring domestic violence survivors and advocates. And we would like to give this proclamation to Williams. Now open it for a motion to adjourn for executive.
Motion to adjourn executive session.
Here in a first, do I hear a second? All those in favor, show by sign of aye. All those opposed, the same. Hearing none, we are adjourned for executive session. Have returned back from executive session. No action was taken. We'll now open it for an adjournment motion. Hearing a first and second, all those in favor show by a sign of aye. Aye. The same opposed. Hearing none, the motion passes. We are adjourned.